do you do the work at the beginning or do you do the work at the end? Is kind of kind of the thing. All right, so you should be able to see my screen, yes?
Yep, I can indeed.
All right.
As long as your screen is the pink and yellow highlights.
Yeah. So, Rhino and I just talked about some of the stuff for both 2025 and 2026. I guess it's probably worth sort of thinking about the trajectory here. So next year, so I had it in my head that next year would kind of be this like constitutional convention sort of moment. And I'm sure there's other, like I think the French Revolution had assemblies and such as well. But this, like get everybody together and like figure things out. This was sort of my idea.
Yeah. Let's move it to the next level.
What was that?
Let's move it to the next level.
Yeah. So Rhino is concerned. Do you know Rhino, by the way? Are you familiar?
I do not.
Okay.
No.
So Rhino is this guy, rhinothebearded.com. And I don't know if there is a simple way to get to the end of all of this. Maybe 84 is the answer. So we don't have years here. But here's his like first real stream on 11/11. Do we have a year? So 2012. So he's been doing this Creative Commons. He does it on Friday nights. And so he's been involved for a minute. So yeah, you can peruse. So it's easy to remember. rhinothebearded.com.
He has some experience and probably some valid points.
Yeah. So but anyway, so he and I were talking. The reason why that that I don't exactly know how this happened. Maybe I proposed it to Rhino, assuming the answer would be yes. Maybe I just volunteered him. I don't know exactly how this happened, but he has done live shows in Jackson in the past. So the idea was that, we can sort of start with some experience. And there's Creative Commons folks in Tennessee that are close enough to him to where they can get there, especially if you're a band with, just let's just say you're, classic rock band singer, drummer, guitarist, bassist. It's expensive to move around. So
absolutely.
So getting people close and that are willing to do it, to have a place to start. So that's kind of why we picked a large part of why we picked Jackson. So so next year we're probably gonna do it at, I don't have, oh yeah, so here we go. So we may do it here both years, but this in the end of allmusic.com, they have a venue that well, it's a record store, and they have space for shows and stuff. And so Rhino's vision is that we sort of like, we build this as a show, but then we leave like lots of just space in between for people to like have conversations. And maybe I pull, like folks like you perhaps away and say,
am I a folks?
Well, So
Have I made it
like,
to folks level?
yeah. So like, let's say that like we get, you and Josh and Monk and the guys maybe even from New Zealand and Hong Kong. Let's say that you're all able to show up. Okay.
Okay.
So maybe we get all the potential host folks together, and then we kind of figure out like, what about this makes sense, what about this should we try to recreate, what about this would be impossible to recreate. Let's think through this. So we might
Yeah.
do some of that. That's the idea. And
And
so
having myself and Long John host an event would lead to ultimate hilarity in one way or another. I mean,
yes,
no doubt.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, like, we will, whoever
Oh my
the
goodness.
whoever the like local contact person is, they'll have outside support, but like, we need to know, like obviously, is there a place that we can do this? Because like, finances are going to be a problem, like, this place dueling, like, to book it for a day will be like $5,000. So
Okay.
I don't know what that is in CAD, but
I mean,
650, it's more than five.
I guess it depends on the type of venue we're looking for, right? Like, what's the
Yeah, so
general
I think
overview?
I think that um the like I think it's going to have to be different from year to year. So like,
Yeah.
um like, if there's a field somewhere where people are like, yeah, we do like shows here in this field, like, great.
Well,
Like,
the reason I ask is because my cousin has a 5-acre farm with a huge barn, and they're currently renting it out for like movie sets and stuff like that.
yeah,
I wouldn't have to pay for it. That would be a
yeah.
free
So
acquisition.
I think stuff like that is like, each location is going to have to be evaluated on a case by
Yeah.
case basis.
And
But
there's tons of parking. There's lots of space
yeah,
for people. There's facilities, all that. So I mean,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
also, actually, now that I think about it, my aquarium boss is the field house manager for a Girl Guides retreat, which is a gazebo with like 15 picnic tables underneath the gazebo and a huge open field. And there's power, there's koi ponds. It's pretty crazy, actually. So both of those would be available at the charge. So
Cool. Yeah. So, Josh had said that he was gonna to try to make it. So I was gonna, if he was here, I was gonna talk a little bit about what we thought about, like, timeline.
yeah,
Because like, 2027 it's basically 3 years away. So it's
yeah,
34 months from now, basically, because
yeah.
it's early July. So um, this is another thing too. So we've been, our plan is Net Label Day, which you participated in this year, and thank you for that. Has always been the 24th, or not the 24th, the 14th. So
14th, yeah,
this provides some challenges,
yeah,
because like, next year it's on a Monday. So
right,
what we decided to do was to have and maybe we should have started it on Friday, instead of Saturday. But we kind of already said this is the way we're at. Although we haven't
yeah.
said a lot about it, so maybe we can't. But the idea is that now we will have Net Label Week, and Net Label
Okay,
Week will
yeah,
start on the second Saturday of July. And so Net Label Week is always going to contain Net Label Day. Net Label
yeah.
Day might be the first day of Net Label Week, or it might come some time in the middle of it. but it will always contain it. So
yeah.
So yeah, so the idea will be in 2025. Probably there will always be like some sort of Friday night event. So that's why the other page said 11th. But so then, for 2027, we're basically looking at, the Saturday would be the 10th. Howdy, Josh. Can you hear us? Josh, can you hear us? We can't hear you if you're talking.
I'm not talking, but.
Well, yeah, no, but Josh, I don't know.
Turn your microphone on.
I don't know if he may be trying to be quiet, but I don't know if he can hear us. So.
Yeah. So it was a pertinent question.
Okay, so he cannot hear us. Do you know Josh?
I do not.
Okay, so Josh is lead instigator. I think he's the band leader. I think it might be wrong to call him the lead singer. Juliet does a lot of singing as well.
There's a mute on his microphone. I see on his screen.
He can't hear us either, though, so he should be able to hear us even if he's muted.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point.
But anyway,
his volume turned up.
yeah, that is.
Did you disengage the inertial dampener?
Let's see here. So.
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go. So this is Josh.
Yeah, awesome.
So
Josh?
while you were getting that, I was like, I could introduce you, give you some context for what's going on here. So yeah, Louis Ling and the Bombs has released, not only the albums, but you can see here has been involved in a variety of Black Sonic stuff. So aside from just the whole Friends of CC Music thing, I had proposed to Mike that, if we're able to get Cheese and Patsy to come over from Japan, maybe like 2027 is like a good time to do like a big Black Sonic meetup. Yeah, at the same time, is that like never happened?
That would be amazing.
Are they like?
I don't remember the last time that happened.
Bruce Wayne and Batman, they're never seen in the same place.
Yeah, never seen them together. No, I mean, if I hadn't seen them together before they moved, that would be suspicious.
So I mean, I really hope that's a thing that we can make happen, but maybe not. So, so I guess I do have a hard stop, not for a while, not for 44 minutes, but I gotta bounce.
Okay.
So I do want to make the best use of the time. So I will just ask you both, where do I need to start as far as the I mean, I know you and I were already talking a bit, yeah, but like how far back in our planning do you need me to start at the beginning, or
yeah, I'm a bit lost.
okay, so let me start with the why, which I think is a how we got here.
Yeah.
So so I think that one of the big moments in here, the place where we're going to start is 2013, and that is when Spotify released their free tier. Now, this is not a point that I had personally highlighted as being a place where things shifted. David Rovix. I don't know if you guys are familiar with David. He does some like folk punk, but I think most people sort of associate him with folk musician in Portland, Oregon. I was recently talking to him about basically having the same conversation, although, we kind of just got stuck at the email stage. Not because David didn't want to talk, but because of this. He's saying that, and well, in 2013, when Spotify released their tier, it kind of like threw like touring, at least in the States, into complete chaos. And he's like, and there's some other things going on, like it sounds like maybe like university funding has dried up, which that sounds plausible with in the US. Like a lot of higher learning institutions are cutting back. So how much of that has to do with like all the other things going on? I don't know. And how much is that stuff that's happening outside of the US? I don't know. But I think that's where we start. And then the next thing that happened in our timeline is in 2016, they had the last Cologne Commons. Was that the one you were at, Josh? You were at a Cologne Commons, weren't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we were. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Was that 2016 or?
I can't remember the exact year.
Fair enough.
It was with the Vienna Ditto, and that was just amazing.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So Cologne Commons, for a few years, they had a big, just like a festival, I guess is the best way to describe it. I don't, right, Josh? I mean, you were there, so
yeah, it was. It was a big festival in a big like warehouse kind of place where, and Rhino came over. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was in an industrial part of Cologne. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So
can I just say thanks to? Can I just say thanks to Yuck MC for the remix?
Disrupt. Yeah, my pleasure. That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite tracks I did so far. Actually, I love that remix.
Oh, thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. It was really good. It was really nice.
My pleasure. I loved it. I love doing it. I love the song, so it was great to do it for a song that I was super into. So.
Oh, thanks so much. That was awesome.
So like these things don't.
I don't mind.
Yeah. These things don't happen in a vacuum. So like obviously like them like, does Spotify have something to do with Cologne Commons ending things? Maybe not. I don't know. But I think it's a point in the Creative Commons community that got us to where we're at now. The big one though is in 2018, the FMA sold. WFMU, which is a radio station in New Jersey, sold the FMA to Kicksplit. And Kicksplit was not a good steward of the FMA. Now the FMA did have some technical hurdles that sort of led to the cost of hosting being expensive. But Kicksplit didn't really do anything to help. They just sort of like sat on it. They put ads all over it. And people like taking things off of FMA, and the FMA ceased to be this sort of like digital town square for the Creative Commons community. So, it was this slow decline. I think, if the FMA had just, lights out, turned off, then people would have like immediately been like, oh yeah, we gotta fix this. We gotta do something. Yeah. But everybody's sort of waiting around to see what happens with Kicksplit. And then, Kicksplit goes to Tribe of Noise. Tribe of Noise has been much better, but like I think the cachet was already gone. And then of course we had the pandemic, and who knows if the pandemic hadn't happened where we would be now, but it did. And basically, I have kind of been seeing this like weird vibe for a while, which is why that I started the CC Community Music Awards back in 2017, because it felt like we weren't doing a great job of like highlighting good music in the Creative Commons scene. Like, you know, Jamindo had their struggles, and they've, you know, they're trying to keep the doors open, and they've done some things that people don't like. And we, you know, there's a lot of things that have happened. The Creative Commons HQ used to be very good to music. Eric Stoyer was on staff there and did things with music. He's a musician. But Eric's not there, and the CCHQ has done absolutely nothing. And again, this is sort of one of those things where people have thought, well, maybe, you know, maybe they'll figure it out, blah, 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 blah. And so
They're not going to.
We finally, a few of us back in February, we finally just kind of decided we were sick of it. And we were going to just like do it ourselves. You know, like if you can't rely on, you know, CCHQ in San Francisco to do anything, then we'll just do it ourselves. Now, you know, they've had 20 years of being an organization that we don't have, and, you know, associations with like Stanford and things that we don't have that are useful for them. But ultimately, like, we want to do the things that they were doing at the beginning. And so that's where we're at now. And I think we need to get together in physical space. One of the things that happens on these meetings is Jason, who goes by the handle BSOTs, both sides of the surface, if you guys are familiar with him, you know, like his internet is choppy a lot of times. So like that really makes it a struggle for him to contribute to these calls, because he's always getting like, you know,
couple seconds behind.
Yeah. So, you know, that's not to say that, you know, we shouldn't do, you know, streams and things like that. We definitely should do that. But, you know, and record stuff and get it online as much as we can. But I think we do need to get together, in physical space. And so, that is, you know, basically where this project leads us. Now, as far as, you know, the proposed, like the ventures in different places, the idea is that, you know, it's pretty simple, really. Like, it's easier for people, you know, in Europe to get to Paris than it is to Jackson, Mississippi. You know, it's easier for people in Asia.
It takes 14 hours to get to Calgary from Vancouver.
Yeah, it's easier for folks to get to, you know, to get from Asia to get to Japan than it is, you know, to Vancouver. So this is the basic idea, is just like, if you want to include people, you need to go where the people are. And you know, I think one of the things that it's always going to be a problem to a certain extent, is just like language barrier. So that is a concern. And I think, you know, one reason why, you know, it's kind of North American heavy, and then like, you know, Hong Kong, a lot of English speakers there, a lot of English speaking places, because like you can't go 0 to 60. You know, ultimately,
I don't know. Most people I meet around the world all speak English. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, in France, everybody speaks English, really, even though they pretend they don't.
Right. Well,
the only place I really ran into the trouble was in Switzerland. Certain parts of Switzerland, they just didn't seem to even care about speaking English. But they spoke French, and I have a little bit of French, so.
Yeah, I think you know, like once you get into some of the like, you know, like Indonesia and places like that, like maybe they're just staying out of things because they don't want to be involved. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because there's internet blackouts, but like you can see the places that are like involved, you know, like in the scene, like and
Yeah,
like
we released a record in Indonesia on a DIY punk label right at the beginning. And yeah, Indonesian punk scene was on the rise, and they were,
yeah.
but yeah, you're right. It's kind of petered out recently, I have to say.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not language barrier. Maybe it's like financial payments barriers. I don't really know. But like, if you just look at like, you know, the population of Earth, and like China is like super like underrepresented, and like
Yeah,
the country of Africa is like super underrepresented. So, you know.
I'm
There's
actually
definitely.
we're actually trying to organize a tour of China for next year.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Because Chinese bands are starting to come to France. Some of our friends, well, two of our friends' bands go to China regularly on tour. China's just opened up to the world. They've just gone, fuck it, let's go for it.
Okay.
So,
Trying to join the
so the
rest of the
future,
cultural world.
yeah, the future is pretty bright, I think, music-wise in China. It's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we need that in every country, really. I mean, if every country were to latch on to that to music the way that they could, it would change the dynamic.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, this is just a this is sort of like a sketch. You know, like it's, you know, we don't have, you know, other than the two in Mississippi. You know, that's kind of where we're at. But one of the things that eventually I'd like to do, and I don't know how soon we can really do this. I mean, some of it just depends on who wants to do it. But we'd like to get, you know, people doing their own thing outside of, you know, so our organization is Friends of CC Music, and these are like the global events that we're talking about now, where we're going to invite, you know, very intentionally everyone, and we're going to think about international flights and locating places in, you know, where people can actually get to. But you know, like if there's a group of musicians that wants to have like a get together in like the French Alps where it's like, you know, hours away from any airport, then like go for it. You know, like we're like, you know, we don't want these to be exclusive, you know, like events. We want people to do their own thing. But like a local event is just like you're gonna do different things. If you're expecting like a local population, then you're gonna, you know, you're not going to worry about hotels. You know, like for these events we're probably going to book, you know, like a block of hotels like you would do for a wedding, you know.
Right.
So you wouldn't necessarily do that for a local event. So that's why we're, you know, and we're planning these years in advance. If you want to have a show and you have the space to do it, you probably do it like a couple weeks, you know, like so. um but I think we have to probably like to some extent show people what's possible, you know, like that there is like a group of people interested in this stuff. You know, it's
Well,
not
the more little local events you have, I mean, obviously, then that
right.
creates interest
Yeah.
amongst
But
other
it's
local
like
groups.
we like I don't have the time to like organize all that. And so like
Yeah, of course.
Rhino is doing the Friends of CC Music US, and like, you know, eventually we'll probably have some sort of like structure, and people can figure out, whatever like organization makes sense for their country. Like we talked a lot about whether or not we should have like an election, and people were kind of like, it doesn't really make sense now to do that for us. But at some point, I would like to be, a democratic institution. But yeah, so that's sort of like a future thing. It seems like people are okay with the way things are at the moment.
I mean,
So,
I've got nothing but time, right? Like I'm on disability after yet another heart failure, so I've got basically every day free. So I'm definitely down for making something happen in that regard here in Vancouver. There's a lot of musicians and there's a lot of venues. So
sweet.
That's cool. That is cool. In Paris, there's
I love being involved in it. So I mean, whatever I can do.
So next year, July 11th. Do you guys think, like, is there any chance that you'll be able to make it to Jackson? Because we have like 50 slots. Okay.
I mean, my son and baby mama are in Kentucky right now. They go to Kentucky every year.
Okay.
So maybe there's a way I tack something on. But there's definitely a possibility. I've hitchhiked a lot of places, so I'm not afraid to do that either.
Yeah, I've been talking about it with the band, and I even been talking about it with some other French bands that have done tours of the southern states of America. There's bands like that, and these guys sing in French, and they were able to do a successful tour from New Orleans all the way to Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Man, what a great city!
Yeah. They said, dude, you can play punk shows all across the southern states. So I said that to the band, and I said, and everybody loves Rhino. So yeah, we tentatively want to do it. It's going to be cool. Yeah.
How many people are in the band?
We're 6 people.
6. Okay. Just do it this way. Yeah, he didn't have an exact number, but it starts to add up. That's what Rhino and I were talking about. He was like, I don't know a number. It's like, well, dude, think about this. Like, I don't know how many bands you want to have, but I've done festivals in the past, and like I remember that one was 9 hours, or it was 11 hours, 9 bands. Okay, let's just say everybody in the band that, like, they all had 4 members. 9 times 4. Like, you're at 36 right there. You've got if you're 50, you're almost done at that point. So so like, it's important for us to have a number. So he was like, okay, 50. So he was thinking 3 bands. So we did talk about you. So I think that would be
what other band offers a male and female singer at the same time? Offers that kind of energy, that kind of fire, and it's so open to remixes? Not many, in my experience. That's what I think.
Do you think? I know. So I guess one of the things, obviously I need to talk to Cheese and Potsy about this, but
whatever. They're drunk. You don't need to talk to them.
I mean, do you think there's any chance that they'll come?
I think there's a chance. Yeah, they would probably come for that. If it was something like that and there was a purpose to it, like, that's going to benefit them as much as it benefits anybody, really. I mean,
okay. So
I could see it happening.
All right.
Unless Potsy's still got his weed thing in the States, I don't know.
Oh yeah, well, I might be on some kind of terrorist watch list by now. My God, things are getting crazy here in Europe. my God.
Things are
Every
getting crazy everywhere.
oh man, all my lyrics,
Well,
all my lyrics are analyzed. All you know, who knows? It's terrible.
things have always been crazy everywhere, you know, like
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
800 years ago, a king dies and then there's a war, you know, like it's every time the king dies, there's a war, you know, like, I mean, like, it's like,
Things die.
it's just different now. The crazy is different. But okay, cool. I am running out of steam. I have not eaten enough today.
Yeah.
I did
I
order
just had
some
6
food
pancakes. I'm feeling great.
because I'm like I've got to eat. So, and then I got another event after this. I got to drive across town. So so yeah, like I got to get some food. I don't have time to make anything. So cool. So as far as finances, is that something that you have talked to Rhino about at all, Josh?
No, no.
Okay.
In terms of Louis Ling,
Yeah.
we'd be able to do it if we can set up. If I manage to set up at least between 5 and 10 other shows,
Okay.
then it starts to make it worthwhile to invest in the plane tickets. You know,
Yeah. Right.
if I can't
Oh,
if I confirm
you're
a certain
Josh. Yeah. They're cutting off your internet because you're on the phone.
yeah,
Watch this.
they keep on cutting me off. Yeah, if I can't confirm a certain number of concerts to make it worthwhile, there's no way we can buy the tickets. So
How soon do you need to have all of that set up as far as like, you know, like because it
in
you
terms
know
of
they
tour, in
yeah.
terms of punk rock DIY tours, they're normally set up between 6 and 9 months ahead of schedule.
So
So
you
we
don't
don't.
have a lot of time.
No, yeah, we don't.
Basically.
You're right. You're right. We got to get on that.
Okay.
There's a festival in Florida that we'd quite like to play as well. Uh, so yeah, we'll try it. We're gonna try.
Okay. Cool. Um, yeah. I guess, you know, in the spirit of doing other events, you know, like local events, you know, obviously, like probably next year, if you guys are able to make it, then that'll help answer some questions. But maybe we can think through some things now. So let's say, you know, 2026, you know, maybe we have, you know, maybe in prep for, or just because you want to, but you know, partially thinking about being in prep for the global events. Maybe next year you try to do sort of a smaller local event.
In Paris, that could be
Yeah,
that could be really cool actually.
yeah.
That would be actually a very nice thing to do because Paris is so chock full of musicians right now.
So
Yeah, but
here's
that'd be good.
one thing to think about potentially. Back in 2019, I was involved with an organization called Open Everything, and we had an event. Well, some other people, the org, had an event in Hong Kong, and then there was one in New York City, I think the same day, and there was one in Berlin. I don't think we did anything with the one in New York. Or we had two different events, so maybe I have the New York date wrong. But the Hong Kong group, they started the day, and then they had like a video conference call with the group in Berlin, and then we had a video conference call with the group in Berlin when we went on. And so that is something that, you know, like we could think about, you know, just sort of like passing the torch throughout the day. So we could definitely try to coordinate some of that in 2026. But I guess if you guys, you know, what Rhino has done, I don't know if Rhino has a like a like a form that he sends to the bands. I mean, basically, his thing is like he doesn't care if, you know, like your stuff is normally under Creative Commons, but like the live recording needs to be under Creative Commons to go out on his stream. So that's the way he does that. So I don't know, you know, as far as like the folks that you know locally, like if they're already doing Creative Commons, or if that's a conversation that, like, you know, you guys, you know, feel equipped to have, or like, you know.
Yeah, there's a certain number of Parisian bands that understand that they have to click on the Creative Commons button,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
there's certain bands that don't understand
right,
the concept yet.
yeah,
But yeah, there's a fair few that have got it.
yeah. So I think, I mean, you know, um I think that Rhino's policy makes a lot of sense, you know, like if we, you know, and then the whole like live streaming thing is like a whole another technical thing, because it's like you need to be in a place where you can do that.
Yeah,
So it kind of matters less to me about that. I think, you know, so I may not have, I think I mentioned this to Yuck, but not to you, Josh. Um, One thing that we've decided to do is, like, Net Label Day has been around for a while, but it's always July 14th, which is sometimes in the middle of the week, which complicates things for people. So what we've decided to do starting next year is have a Net Label week instead of Net Label Day, and that'll start on the second
cool.
Saturday. And so Net Label Week will always contain Net Label Day. But that way, you know, people don't have to feel like they're not involved if they're doing stuff on the weekend. So I think,
And
you
I
know,
love that idea. I
yeah.
love that.
So, you know, if we're, you know, branding it as, you know, like a Net Label Week event, then like that's an obvious opportunity for folks to talk about, well, like, what is a net label? And we've um, had a fair amount of discussions about whether or not net label is too complicated of a concept for folks. And I sort of disagree with Omar on a purely technical level. But I do think that Omar's decision. So Omar's the guy that runs Net Label Day. I think that
Oh, okay.
Omar's decision makes a lot of practical sense. So the way that he sees the role of a label is to do the release. That's the process that labels have always done.
Yeah,
Musicians give the label the music, and then the label releases it into the world. That can mean lots of different things, and in the net label world, that means putting it on the net. So his
Yeah.
thing is, well, if you're a musician and you're releasing it individually, it doesn't matter if you call yourself a label or not. You're fulfilling the function of the label because you're
yeah,
doing the release. It makes logical sense. Now, my thing is that, like, the word has to mean something other than, you know, like a music. Like, there's no reason to have two terms that mean different things. So I think if you're releasing, so to me, if you're releasing music for some number of musicians other than one, then I think I agree that, well,
yeah,
then you're a label. Whether you call yourself a label or not, if you're doing releases for multiple artists, then you're a label. So that I agree.
yeah,
But I don't think the
Yeah.
solo offices, but also, like, just by saying that, then like he like reduces the amount of complexity. So like I get it. So, but I do think it kind of confuses people, like, what is a label? Like the whole I mean, I think that, hey, labels release things. You're releasing things, right? Some people are going to get that. I think both of you like immediately was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And maybe nobody else will be confused when you put it in that terms, and people just haven't been confronted, like with the reality of what labels do. And maybe once they are, maybe everybody will get it. But I think a part of the problem that has happened in the past. One thing that's important to think about too in all of these changes, and I didn't mention this on my timeline earlier, but this is actually probably an important one. Mist, which is was I think Chilean net label. I don't think they're doing anything more. They ran net label for the first 8 years, and then Omar took over, and last year was his first year. And so he did like a 51-hour stream to cover all the time zones. And he was pretty wrecked after that. So one of his big things was that, I can't do that again. Other people are going to have to DJ. So we sort of solved that problem this year. And one of the things that I would like to do is I would like to bring Net Label Day under the Friends of CC Music umbrella, because eventually, like, we're going to be doing fundraisers and we'll have like a tax status and people will be able to donate and stuff. And I think that, and there's also the issue of like, if somebody gets hurt. Now, again, I don't know, this is probably less of an issue in places where healthcare is not as fucked up as it is in the US, but like, it's very important to have like insurance, like in case somebody gets hurt at your event in the US. So that's one thing that, the organization, and also like if somebody were to get sued, then it's the organization and not the individual. So one of the things that I Rhino has been doing some shows, like he did a show in Charlotte that he helped out with and stuff. And I'm like, right now all that liability is on you, Rhino. So we can form an organization to promote, CC music, and you can still do everything that you're doing now, but then at least you'll be like protected. And that's one of the things that I want to do with the net label stuff that Omar is doing too. Like if somebody plays something that's not Creative Commons by accident and they get sued, then, that liability is on Omar right now. And I'd like to help protect him from that. So that's one of the reasons for setting up like a formal organization and stuff. And so, I'd like to get him. So far, I've mentioned this to him, and I think he has a lot of things swirling around in his head about what he'd like to do in the future for Net Label Day. This is also one of the reasons why that we decided to do Net Label Week, is because then we can sort of own that, and we don't have to worry about like, Net Label Day being Omar's, and any sort of like changes we want to do around that, then like we can still promote Net Label Day and like all the stuff that Omar's doing, and we don't have to feel like we're competing with that. Now, I don't think Omar would feel like if we were doing stuff that we were competing, but I think that was a concern among many folks, is that, like, hey, if Omar's doing his thing and then we're doing something else, then like that could cause a rift. I don't think that's a serious problem. But what may actually be a bigger issue is the perception that there's some sort of like split in people, whether or not it happens or not. Maybe that would just sort of like, oh, this is kind of dysfunctional. There's two different like groups, like what's happening. That might persuade some people not to get involved. I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I proposed the idea of like calling it Net Label Month, and sort of like, then that gives people even like more freedom on dates and stuff. But at least for next year, we'll stick with Net Label Week. And
I kind of like the week idea over the month idea, just because a month can get so spread out that you kind of lose some of your message.
I agree. My only thing about, so here's my thing about why I like the month, is because then you could spread out things regionally. Like, let's say that like, one weekend was Seattle, one weekend was Vancouver, maybe one weekend is like Vancouver proper, one is Vancouver Island. Like you could have all these like different shows, and then they'd literally not be competing with each other because you could just spread them across weekends. But now,
I absolutely understand that, but would it not be lost that it's all part of the same event?
I mean, that's a branding thing. I mean, like, there's Black History Month in the U.S. Everybody knows about that. They seem to brand that pretty well. There's Pacific. There's Asian and Pacific Islander Month or whatever that's called. That's not branded as well, but that's in May. Maybe I just ignore it because I'm married to a person of Asian descent, so it's like whatever. It's like Asian History Month every day here. But yeah. So I mean, I think the month thing can work. But also I think building to that probably makes some sense. You know, like day, week, month. You have the possibility of really overextending yourself if you just try to like all of a sudden you go from one day and now you're like spreading self across 4 different weeks. That could really I mean, I think that's the big thing is sort of like right now we don't have the people for a whole month, but it's something that we could think about in the future perhaps.
I think if you see a huge increase in the like listener participation and the people getting involved because it's under a week, then maybe it makes sense to go to a month.
I think we're gonna know a lot more after the event in Jackson next year. So we need to just I don't think we are, but we need to, not yet. We're not getting ahead of ourselves, but we just need to make sure that we don't. I think it's good to have, like a trajectory. So we're thinking about where we're headed, but like, it doesn't make sense to book stuff in LA in, 2030. So at this point,
we might be underwater by then.
Well, I mean, I hope not, but it might. So, all right. I am pretty spent. So
I was just trying to get my kids to bed simultaneously. But that's cool.
I'm working on birdhouses. Little birdhouses.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
I got all my wood ready.
Do you guys have any questions for me before I get out of here?
Just if you could send me some information about like what I could do locally, maybe just like what the goal is for each event, what we're trying to achieve, stuff like that. Just send me some literature on that so I can read up on it. That's all I'd ask, and then we can touch base in a little bit and see what we can get going. But I'm totally down for it. Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, I love organizing festivals. So why not organize a festival in Paris? I might as well. It's something that
excellent.
It's a cause that I've always supported. So I might as well actually do a festival about something that I support for once. So that's good.
Awesome.
That's great for me.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Doug. Anytime. Absolutely happy for this.
That's cool.
Have a good